This is getting pretty hard, dude. I've never done this before, man. Good afternoon, everyone. Mayong hapon sa mga Bisaya and what's in Tagalog? I'm gonna try my best to speak Tagalog because this is probably a good way for me to practice. Magandang hapon sa lahat. Magandang hapon sa lahat. So there it is. So this will definitely help me speak more Tagalog. So when I go back to the Philippines, I can actually converse. When I go up to Manila, I might talk about, this is a very touchy topic, lending money to your relatives. See if I can fix this. We're leaving my sister's house. I try to visit her as much as I can. My other sister's in Virginia, so hopefully I can see my other sister in Virginia before I leave. But it's a wide screen. I figure I just make the vlog from the car. I'm kind of bored being in a small ass room I'm in. So, cause until I go back home and actually be in my office in my house. It's still a room right now. I'm gonna turn into an office when I go back home. We have a pretty big property, so we can make videos around the property, and I would love to do some landscaping on my property so I can, it's a sanctuary, so make it really look nice. I want to talk about certain problems that OFWs and Filipinos, and maybe just basically anybody, very sensitive, touchy subject, which is lending money, which is
why is touchy?
Sometimes people get hot. People are hot for money sometimes. Me personally, money is not so important. It gets me things, but it's not the number one thing. However, I've heard many stories from expats as well as local Filipinos and OFWs that, they run into issues where it's like many of the relatives, obviously not all, but you have those very opportunistic relatives who just are like, they ask for money and then they think that money grows on trees.
We just pick it up.
Yeah, or we pick up the money here, in America or whatever country that, you're working. Sometimes you get put in a bad situation, like, obviously parts of the Philippines, many people are impoverished and some people really do need help. But sometimes, like, I don't really see them as a person living in the Philippines or wherever. Before I lend the money, I guess I judge them on their character. Because Ruby and I had a very small lending business, and I learned that early on that, what's that in Bisaya nga saying? For sometimes when you're lending money, in general, it could be in whatever country. It's like
Lipay, bayad likay.
Yeah, the term would be in Bisaya, utang lipay, bayad likay, which translation is that when you get the utang, when you get to get the money, you're very happy, but when it's time to pay, you're nowhere to be found. And that's how it is in most cases when in any country or any person, any of those type of people. So my suggestion is if you just found yourself, in another country or money's going good for you, this is common knowledge, right? Everyone should know this, but for those of you who don't, you got to be really careful of how your money goes out, because certain times you have these opportunistic people, and that's anywhere in the world, that, oh, okay, he's in America now if I need some money, I'm gonna go ask him because he's my cousin, he's my brother, he's my sister, or whatever. And sometimes people really do have issues, I know that already, but also at the same time people mistreat you or people lie to you and things like that, and they use it for their own personal benefit. Then you have some people, you have those relatives, just because you did well in life,
They think like you're rich, then they feel
rich too.
They're entitled.
Sometimes there's certain relatives that feel entitled to the money. Of course, it's a human thing. Some people are just.
They expect you gonna take their responsibility. You're gonna take their responsibility.
Yes, certain issues that I've had within my personal family. I don't know everybody's situation, but I do hear horrible stories throughout the world of how people use them for the money and things like that. There's been many times that I've been burned by even my own family because of that whole lending and all that stuff. Because I'll give you one story before I leave. I had one of my motorcycles getting fixed. I had it modified and gotten fixed and stuff. So
I remember that.
my cousin goes to me, and it was stupid of me. It was my fault because I trusted him too much. I was gonna get it modified. I was gonna put a pipe on it and stuff like that. It was a nice big bike. So I said, fine, you know the guy. This is your guy. Let me just deal with it. So I left the bike at the mechanics. I entrusted him to deal with the whole situation because at that point in time, my Bisaya was not the best. He comes back to me and he says to me, it's gonna be 8,000 pesos. So I said, oh, okay, it's not bad. I said, fine. So I hit him off with 8,000 pesos. And what happened was the next morning, early in the morning, my uncle bangs on my door in our house in the city. He goes, oh, I just wanted to make sure you're here. I said, why? What happened? He asked me, did I go out last night? I said, no, I didn't go out last night. I was like, why? What happened? Your motorcycle's out in the front of the boulevard with blood on the tank. I said, I gave my, I'm not going to say his name, but I said, I gave my bike to my cousin because he was going to get it fixed and so on and so forth. So now I went outside, I get dressed, I go outside and I look at the bike is literally on the ground in the corner, like in the ditch. There's blood all over the tank. And I just got a new paint job in that job. Remember, Paul just did that work right for me, right? Like, what happened? I'm like, oh my God. I picked up the bike, I towed it to the house and I go look for him. And then when I go look for him, he was just at the crib. He was at his house acting like as if he was drunk. And I said, oh fine, I'll check you later. A few of my guys saw him in town. So he came to my house. He gave me a crazy story about this and that, whatever. The real story was he got into a fight the night before. He got into a fight because I guess he was showing off with the motorcycle to his friends because it was, I guess in the Philippines, in Dumaguete especially, it's like the bigger CC bikes. It's a luxurious item, you know, when it comes to Dumaguete, which is full of like the motor scooters, the 125s, the Honda Waves, the Raiders. I had a big bike. I found out from one of my uncle's friends who lives around the area that he spent all my money on beer. I was pretty pissed off at that time. It wasn't really for the money. I was pissed off that my bike was on the ground. If you guys don't know, my wife knows, I love my motorcycles. I really love my motorcycles. I tell my wife all the time, if motorcycles were chicks, I would be a freaking womanizer.
Crazy.
I kind of went off, I apologize, but when it comes to lending money, you got to be a really good judge of character, and you got to be comfortable with knowing that it might not come back to you. So you better consider how much you're giving out, whatever.
No, if like, you know, if you really want to let other people borrow money, you need to have a collateral. That's
a businesswoman speaking. You got to have collateral. We're almost in our house, so I want to thank you for your time again. So you can obviously subscribe. You can hit me on Twitter, hit me on Facebook, and the sun's in freaking my eyes, and hit me on IG if you want. When you do have time, hit me with some questions and I'll try my best to answer. I can compile a Q&A section, a Q&A video, okay? So take care, bye.